Guys, I'm about to watch all the mocap films. I am so excited. It's going to be so great. It's about 2 a.m. right now, as you can see, and we're about to watch all of them back to back. Let's go. I'm so excited. I'm literally shaking with nerves because I know this is going to be a fantastic experience.
6.5 hours later.
The motion capture movies have a horrible reputation. These films could be the biggest ever swing and miss for the animation industry. Robert Zemeckis, the guy who directed Back to the Future and Forest Gump, was the main person who loved the technology. He created Image Movers Digital and made 5 animated movies in this format, with the last 2 being with Disney. These movies were very unique and had a very mixed response from the general public. But my question is, are they really that bad? You probably know the answer already. The Polar Express is a horrifying start to these mocap films. It's weird because on the one hand the animation is really solid at points. I guess if you pause the movie it looks a little better. But man, these characters and movements are so jittery and uncanny. It makes me so uncomfortable just watching it. Just look at the way he spits out that ticket stub. The character movements are too realistic for its own good. It gives me the creeps. And also look at the hot chocolate scene. I could go on and on about the weirdness of this movie. It's funny because the more realistic looking characters do look uncanny, but it's the cartoony ones which look way more messed up. Like the train drivers are demented. Demented. Just please leave the movie. What's even scarier is their deleted scene. Holy shit. It's a shame that it was cut though, because it explains the story of the ghost hobo on top of the train. But in the end it was worth cutting because of that horrible song.
Put it all together, 2 hands are always better than 1.
The elves are also scary as fuck. What is up with the design on these things? There is nothing whimsical or charming about them. And they're meant to be. It's a Christmas movie.
It's in good hands. Trust me.
Why on earth do they sound like that? Whose idea was this? And it's been pointed out before, but one of the elves doesn't have a walk cycle. He literally just floats around with the others. This is in the actual movie. A movie with a budget of $170 million. It just adds to the uncanniness, to be honest. What in the world happened to this film? Jesus. And yeah, by the way, the film is pretty terrible. The premise of it is actually pretty good, you know. I do like the idea of the Polar Express bringing children to the North Pole. And the first 15 minutes or so are pretty decent, honestly. It gets straight into the action and the setup had me invested. But then it becomes a horror film and I'm just baffled. I think the mocap is that detrimental to the movie that it completely ruins the rest of the film. It's a really strange case for an animated movie, to be honest. Nothing in the story was even close to being bad, and it wasn't entirely predictable or anything. But Jesus Christ, that mocap is so distracting. I also don't get why Tom Hanks voices so many characters. It just adds to how distracting this film is. Is his main character meant to be the conductor? The dad? Santa Claus? It's just ridiculous. And again, the movie script and the setup here are actually pretty good. So it's kind of incredible how massively they messed up the execution here. You can tell tried and true stories if you can create it in a refreshing and memorable way.
Put it all together.
While this movie sure is memorable, there's also a bunch of roller coaster segments in this movie. It reminded me of a Blue Sky film, because they also love to add shit like that in their movies. I have heard that this film looks amazing in 3D though, to be fair, so maybe I'll give that a go someday. I don't even know how to put a movie like this into words. It kind of stumped me. It's a movie that's actually fine on a story front, and the animation on a technical level is pretty great for 2004, and the score itself is actually pretty good too. They had so many good ingredients for this movie, but because of the motion capture shit and the reusing of voice actors, the movie becomes terrible. It's a feat in itself to have so much going for a movie, but then one issue just ruins the whole experience. Also, the real life characters give me the heebie-jeebies. It just adds to the creepiness factor of this movie. I think Carsten Rundquist put it best in his Letterboxd review. There is something wrong with Robert Zemeckis. Like, honestly, to make something like this, there must be something dodgy about you. Also, this kid looks like he loves pod racing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but there's a really good film on this list. Monster House is actually a really fun movie. The film still has the weird movements for sure, but the design is more cartoony and it makes it way less uncanny. It's not uncanny at all really, it just feels a bit awkward at times. And this brings me to the concept art. My god, this shit looks cool. This film not only had Zemeckis connected to it, but also Steven Spielberg. There is a clear level of effort put into this movie like there was with the Polar Express, but here the execution is way better. And it does make me think, why was this film even mocap? Like seriously, what was the point of it being made with motion capture? It doesn't look realistic at all really. So we're just left with some dodgy movements. It clearly worked better this way, but it kind of removes the point of it being in motion capture. I think the movie also works better than the Polar Express because it's meant to be creepy. And the movie is not short on its weird moments, but I was always with the movie on its creepiness, not against it, as it is all intentional. Some of the character designs like on Bones are quite messed up, but I guess it adds a bit of charm to the movie. It kind of reminds me of playing the original Shenmue. Yes, it's imperfect, but its crudeness adds something to it in a weird way. And the film's premise is so fun. Having a house that is actually possessed by a human is a really fun concept for an animated movie. And I think they utilise the animation medium really well. Just the design of the house at the end is also very creative and also unsettling. The film also has a star-studded cast, and they apparently got everyone they asked for, which is probably a mix of luck and the script being actually quite good. The cops are really funny, and one of them even takes drugs at one point in this movie. Skull is also the best character of this film. He steals the main scene he's in.
I won't be seeing you later.
Which brings me to the point that most of the characters in this universe are kind of dicks. The world that these kids live in is very mean-spirited. It's kind of like Simpsons or Family Guy. Everyone is kind of out to get each other, so the way they bounce off each other is just really funny to watch. Monster House also has a really cool 80s tone to it, with old video games, cassette tapes and arcade machines. This makes the film feel quite nostalgic, even for when the movie came out. And it honestly makes it stand out from a lot of other movies from that time period. It's also to note that one of the writers for this movie is the co-creator of Rick and Morty and Community. I think that says a lot about the quality of this movie. Even the second act low point is completely avoided before it can even start. It's so refreshing to see that in an animated film, especially after all the other rankings I did. And I remember that this movie was known to be really scary for children. When I was younger, this and Coraline had such a notorious reputation. I was kind of scared to see both of them because of that, but I ended up enjoying both thankfully. What can I say? Please watch this movie if it sounds interesting to you. I think it's really solid. I can't believe they made a good mocap film. Well, let's hope the next one is good. Oh god, it's Beowulf. I don't know how to unpack this one, to be honest. What is this intro music? Why is it trying to be so hip? What is this title card? Like, I mean, this is what I have to deal with. Jesus Christ, let's just get into it. Beowulf is an adult animated film. Wow, you don't see that often. The few ones that I've seen are kind of trash. And with a budget this massive, it kind of makes me scratch my head a bit. Did they really expect to make money from this? I think Robert Zemeckis himself puts the film best actually.
It's all about eating, drinking, killing, and fornicating. Be ready for you when you are. I can't wait.
What? Is that seriously how you're trying to market this movie? Wouldn't you rather comment on, I don't know, the visuals? The story? The acting? Nah, this movie is good because they eat food and have sex in it. Robert Zemeckis, everyone. And speaking of the fornication in it, this movie is ridiculously horny. Like, Jesus Christ. It's so forced and just doesn't fit the tone of the film. And this movie has a man licking a woman's boobs. Oh yeah, and there's also a lot of moaning in this movie. Zemeckis, what are you doing? You did Back to the Future. You know what, actually that makes sense because Back to the Future does have incest in it. They stabbed the monster around his private parts too. And there's actually a comedic level of times in this movie that Beowulf hides his private parts. Guys, is this Austin Powers or is it Beowulf? What were they thinking? And you can't forget the horny jump scare, which brings us to the obligatory mocap scary moments, like with this screaming creature. He's just such an annoying concept for a villain. He just screams all the time. Shut the hell up, please. And the movie story is fine enough, I guess. Beowulf coming in to save the king is cool. And the fact that he's so badass is a fine setup for this movie. And the first half story-wise was actually quite alright. But then it turns into a boring rollercoaster climax with the golden dragon. I think the other issue is that most of these characters are just not that interesting. Beowulf is an okay character, but the villains and literally everyone else in this film just kind of blend into one another. I mean, just look at them, they're so boring. This movie has an unbelievable cast as well. Angelina Jolie, Anthony Hopkins, John Malkovich, Brendan Gleeson for God's sake. I mean, man, what a waste of talent. There was clearly some hype in the industry for this technology, because in hindsight I bet half of these people wouldn't have said yes. The movie is also obsessed, and I do mean obsessed, with these tech demo landscapes. They love spamming in these tracking shots in this film. And again, this feels more like an amusement park ride at points. And the CGI hasn't aged the best. Angelina Jolie's character does look really good at points, but sadly a lot of this shit looks like a PS3 cutscene. Overall, this could be the worst one so far for me. At least I saw potential in the Polar Express. And on the motion capture front, this movie is way less distracting. But all the other issues I've said just make it another terrible experience. And of course this movie bombed. And it might have made a bit of dosh if it wasn't made with motion capture. Well, I really hope the next movie is good. I'm getting really sick of these movies. And there's only like 5 of them. Believe it or not, but I was dreading this movie the most. I heard that it was the most creepy. I mean, just look at the poster. It's one of the most horrible looking things I've ever seen. And believe it or not, this film isn't the worst, to be honest. I still don't really like it. But the fact that it is A Christmas Carol makes it a bit more tolerable. A Christmas Carol could be my favourite Christmas story. I really love the book and also the Muppets film of it, and this movie stays quite true to the source material. But sadly, this movie is ruined again by the mocap, and it's the worst in the scary scenes. And I will give the movie this, the mocap does work a little better here. The characters are more cartoony than something like the Polar Express, but the fact that there's these cartoony movements make it so distracting at points. And man, just look at this freaky shit. It's so unneeded for a Disney telling of A Christmas Carol. I was genuinely really scared watching this one. It's so unneeded and I hate that shit so much. There's also the obligatory roller coaster segments, and yeah, that's annoying. But they actually made some of them work in this movie. Having the ghost transport Scrooge in this way is really compelling. I wish I saw this one in 3D, to be honest. You can do it right, guys. But yeah, I wouldn't watch this one again. Especially considering that there are way better versions of this story. And because of this movie bombing, Image Movies Digital would shut down after Mars Needs Mums. Thank God for that.
Excuse me, sir. I hope my horrible ugliness won't be a distraction to you.
Not at all, boy!
Oh god, it's time for the final film. Someone help me. And if you guys had any doubt at all, yes, this film absolutely sucks. And yes, this film is one of the biggest box office bombs in history. I'm glad, to be honest. This is an abomination. It's like they took all the worst aspects of the other mocap movies, and then it resulted in this absolute turd of a film. While the only thing I like about this film is the custom Disney logo. That's pretty cool, I guess, but that's literally it. I like nothing from the actual movie. Let's start off with the title and the premise. Mars Needs Mums. That could be the worst movie title that I've ever heard. I'm not kidding. Just look at the poster of this thing. Yeah, no wonder nobody saw this crap. The premise alone ruins the film. The plot is that Martians need mums because they don't know how to look after their own kids. And yes, that is really stupid. So they decide to take mothers from Earth to extract their memories into nanny bots. And then they just kill them. Like, what? What a dark premise for a Disney movie. The killing part is just way too cynical for a film called Mars Needs Mums. Disney, do you not understand your target audience? You can't make a film title like Mars Needs Mums and then have it about Martians who have slaughtered thousands of innocent people. And it's even hard to get invested with the characters. Milo is such a dickhead to his mum, so it's hard to even get behind him in the first place. And the rest of the characters range from forgettable to downright terrible. The mean-spirited nature of this movie reeks through the screen. I can almost taste it. And only 40 minutes in does Milo realise that his mum actually loves him.
She loves me.
Are you only just realising that? The other characters consist of the main alien woman. She makes graffiti. And she finds the fat guy hot. And that's literally it. And speaking of the fat guy, this is what you have to deal with if you watch this film. Just kill me now. And his name is Gribble. George Ribble. He's the main source of agony in this movie. And no, he isn't really that fat. He's just full of shitty references. Remember the Wii? Remember Star Wars? Remember Top Gun? Remember Terminator? Remember the title of the movie?
Fact is, Mars needs moms.
What the Sigma?
She takes me to Disneyland.
Visit Disneyland, guys. Visit Disneyland now and buy Mars Needs Mums merch. Remember moonwalking? Who let the dogs out?
Who let the dogs out?
And the film is annoying in other areas too. We have some brilliant exposition by Milo.
Private. Keep out. No Martians allowed.
Yeah, we can read that, you know.
George Ribble. He must have been a kid too when he came here.
Yeah, no shit. Shut up. We don't need everything handed to us on a silver plate. The movie carries on with its shitness, like with the full sad moment in the second half. I love the manipulative slow piano music. It brought a tear to my eye. And the sad moment is that Gribble's mum gets killed right in front of him. And as a viewer, we see that happen as a flashback. I mean, what were you thinking, Disney? This is just so tonally all over the place. Because mixed with this is so much light-hearted crap. Like the obligatory roller coaster moments. There's also a random dance scene. But it's laughable that they try and make such an unappealing world so whimsical.
A world of trash.
The film looks like utter shit. Milo was acted out by Seth Green originally, but some random kid replaced his voice, because I guess they didn't want another Chicken Little on their hands. This results in the kid's movement being so stilted and clunky. He doesn't move like a kid. I actually f***ing hate Image Movers Digital. They're just so inept at pretty much everything. Even the robot is designed so poorly and isn't funny. I don't remember a single gag from the little guy. Great. I think this sums up the entire quality of these movies. The last shot before the credits is baffling. Thank God the movie's over. Oh, there's more. Oh, for God's sake. I think I'm gonna be sick. After Mars Needs Mums bombed, Image Movers Digital shut down and that was the end of the horrid mocap movies. Well, these films suck, don't they? Well, apart from Monster House. That one is actually really good. At least I got one good film from this. Do I want mocap animation to return? Not really, no. But who knows? Maybe with modern technology the format could be utilised better. All I know is that Robert Zemeckis is a very weird person. Thanks for watching.
It's all about eating, drinking, killing, and fornicating.
It's junk. First class junk.